Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year! It has been since September that I've been on here, and my last episode was a doozy, and then life happened. So I'm wishing everyone a happy Halloween, happy Thanksgiving, happy fall equinox, happy winter solstice, Merry Christmas, and now Happy New Year. I hope everyone had an incredible fall and winter season, and I hope everyone was really able to just relax and ease into this new year. I know my last half of the year, after my very turbulent 2024, like the beginning half and like low key the majority of 2024, was kind of a wild ride. And so it was actually yesterday I was reflecting, and I actually wound up doing things that I didn't realize I was even going to do that day, around like Megan Unbound and things like that. And I was like, oh, this actually sets me up perfectly to actually hop back on the podcast and, reflect on 2024. And now that I'm kind of emerging from my cage, I can really kind of bring y'all through how I brought myself kind of out of that place. Now, out of that place being a very turbulent 2024, right? And so I'm not going to get that into it because I really dive in very deeply in my last episode. So definitely go, if you haven't watched it already, go take a look. You'll see me with my old hair color. Yeah, because she has red hair now, which is funny because then the episodes that you'll see after this is also me announcing my red hair because I had pre-recorded episodes that just I did not have the capacity to bring to you, but now I do, because now I feel like finally, after like a lot of turbulence and then like a season of getting steady and like grounded again, I now feel like I'm able to show up here and like not in a way of like, oh my God, I have to show up like blah, 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 but more of like I actually have the space and the capacity to show up in a way that feels really, really good and really authentic and just more like me. So today's episode is really just like reflection on 2024. And I really wanted to bring, especially compared to where I am now, and kind of bring you through the process of how I had that extremely turbulent 2024 and what brought me back. And I'm sure you see the title of this episode, that's going to be through human design. And so this is my own experience. This is my own journey. Of course, I walk my clients through this as well, but I kind of wanted to use my life as an example of how I use these tools to like bring me out of some like really turbulent times. And so to start us off again, I think this is maybe the fifth time I'm saying this in the last like 2 minutes that I've been on here already, that 2024 was a really turbulent year for me, like on all fronts and on all accounts. And you can get like most of that turbulence in the last episode. But to kind of just like summarize, if we don't feel like going back and listening to I think it was like an hour and 15-minute episode of me like struggling, then, then stick around. I'll summarize it. Basically, it was just hard on all fronts, right? It started with a friend breakup that really like shook me and questioned everything about my life and my integrity with my work, which then really had me questioning about the work that I do and how I show up, which then affected my finances, which then affected my relationship, and then it affected my health. And so I felt like I was just low key, like being attacked on all fronts. Like I didn't know what the fuck I was selling and what I was doing in my business anymore. I felt completely disconnected from my own self and spirituality. Finances weren't coming in. So then, finances obviously cause strains in so many ways for ourselves, in our relationships, in life. And so like your girl just like was really moving through it on all accounts. And by September, things turned around. So literally, I had 9 months of like absolute just like life lessons and really beating myself into the ground. And by September, I completely turned it around. To then by the end of the year, I ended the year exhausted, of course. I was completely exhausted with what 2024 brought me through. Like, literally celebrated the new year for the first time ever. Usually, Jason and I always love to, like, do something, not like do something big, but at least just like celebrate it, you know? And this year we had nothing left to give. And we made a lasagna and watched Wicked and fell asleep watching Wicked. And that has something to do with Wicked. I've seen Wicked before. Favorite musical, nothing to do with Wicked itself. Believe me, we're fans. We're stans. But fell asleep watching Wicked, woke up, still only like 10 p.m. And it's like, okay, like let's put on something else. I think I put on Bob's Burgers, watched Bob's Burgers, fell asleep again, woke up 10 minutes before the new year to us sleepy, groggily ringing in 2025 and then immediately going back to sleep. So, like, things are tough. So, we were exhausted and tired as all fuck, but like, I felt like I started at the same time when Jason and I, spent the last week really just like reflecting and just chatting about like what this year like really was for us and where we want to go in 2025 and just the things that we want to accomplish like together. And of course separately, right? But it was, I feel like I truly got this. I'm now starting this year in a completely new chapter, in a completely new era of my life. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful because I do not wish like turbulent, like ego death times on anybody, but I do understand that it was necessary. And I feel like that was my theme and how I ended 2024 was really being like, I'm so happy that 2024 happened. And I wouldn't say so happy. I'm happy that 2024 happened. And I'm happy that I went through all the lessons that I went through and learned the things that I needed to learn because it brought about areas of my life that really needed to change, right? And things that I needed to let go of that I had no idea I needed to let go of, right? But I'm really happy that it's over. I'm really happy that it's over. But when I was reflecting and looking back, like, on like, okay, like I started at this place, right? This one place being like my rock bottom, true rock bottom, like no money, health was in the absolute shitter, like I was barely sleeping, I was self-medicating like nobody's business, like I truly was like in a very unwell space. I had total lack of like direction and purpose, and like it was just very overwhelming. It was very overwhelming and it was scary, especially because, I have this business also at the same time where I'm like supposed to be helping people. And so I had a really hard time also with that. I'm like, okay, damn, like, I know everyone goes through their shit, but like I'm having a really hard time struggling being authentic and also like having this like also like be my income, right? And so I really took like a hard like look at my life and what I wanted, and I made some really major changes. At the end of July, I made a decision. And by September, that decision was manifested and it completely turned my life around. Completely turned my life around to the point where now I can look at my bank account and not want to scream and cry. I'm very financially stable. I feel like Jason and I have a relationship like resurged and like back on track and just like are able to enjoy our lives again. Where I literally am looking at my vision board that I made in August and things have come true that are on that board, and they came true in September. More of it being actualized by the end of the year. And so I was able to change things really, really quickly. I made a decision and I took a hard look and I figured out where I was going. But I want to walk through what that was, because the biggest component of how I was able to shift everything was looking at my human design. And I realized that that's a really big claim and a really big statement. And maybe like a little eye rolly. It's like, oh my God, okay, like she's a projector that looked at your human design. But I really want to break down like why and like how, when we live by our human design, things actually just start happening, and they start happening very easily because now you're living in alignment with how your energy actually works. Living by your human design is like sitting on a floaty and like flowing with the current of the river. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if when we were in Bend, for example, I know so many other towns have this too. And honestly, like, I aspire to have this be my life someday, but like, I forget where else y'all do this. But anyway, in Bend, there's a river. Everyone gets on a floaty and you just like float down it. And it's really fucking fun. It's just so fun. And you don't have to do anything besides just sit there. And like, you bring like snacks and drinks and stuff like that. And you just have a good time. That's living by your human design. When you're not living by your human design, it's like you're trying to float on that river upstream. It's like you're going backwards. And so now you have to use your arms and now you have to use your legs. It's like you dropped something and now you have to go get it. And it's really hard and it's really tiring and it's frustrating and you feel like you're not getting anywhere because you're going against the current. And human design, when you live by these practices and these tools, actually helps you get to where you need to go easier and faster and in a way that actually feels really good, right? And so the first thing that I did was I looked at my human design, lol, and I looked at where in my life, what areas were contributing to the most of me being in my not self theme. So as a projector, my not self theme is bitterness. If you're a manifester, your not self theme is anger. If you're a generator or a man gen, it's frustration. And I am low-key blanking on what reflectors not self themes are. And I'm really sorry, but I'm going to put it in the comments. But when you go look at your chart, for example, I'm sorry to my reflectors out there. I love you. Y'all are the best. But when you go look at your chart, obviously you see all your chart things on the side and you have your not self theme listed there. Right. And so I looked at my life and I started to understand what was causing so much like bitterness, right? And the biggest area of that all this was coming from was my business, right? And like, especially when my self theme is success, when I'm like, when that's my like end goal, like this is how I'm supposed to be feeling. When I am not feeling that, we have to look at the places where I'm feeling not successful, right? And so another way of looking at it, instead of being like bitterness, if we don't want to look at bitterness per se, or frustration or anger, it's like, where in my life am I not receiving peace? Am I not feeling satisfied, right? If we want to look at it that way. And so for me, the biggest thing was my business. And really not even being disappointed of like, you know, because I built so many things. Like I've done so many things. Like I'm like on camera right now. This is like, I built website, I built programs, I've helped clients. Like it's not that my business was like failing and letting me down, but it was really like I felt like I left corporate because I wanted freedom, and I wanted lifestyle freedom and time freedom and all of these things. And my business was actually making me feel more confined and more like, I'm having trouble with the right word, but like I was just feeling so restrained, feeling really restrained, right? And then, of course, the lack of money, like I think we can just all call a spade, like doesn't help, right? We all need money. Does money buy happiness? I think Ariana Grande would say you're just not making enough of it. LOL. But at the same time, it does matter. Maybe it doesn't buy happiness, but it matters, right? Like we need to take care of ourselves. We need to take care of ourselves. And if we're not meeting those basic needs, right? Think of our root chakra. Like if we're not meeting our human basic needs, nothing else is able to happen. Like we can't manifest the things that we want to manifest, and we can't do the things that we want to do if like our foundation is like crumbling away. I've never felt like less creative in my life. Like I was just in constant disassociation. I was waking up with my anxiety at 100. And I'm like, I left to be more free, and I feel the most stressed I've ever felt in my life. So let's take a really big look at what's happening here and get really, really clear. So I went into my cave. I got really quiet, and I got really clear. I say these things, I say my cave, because I went into my environment. So I have caves as my environment, and I built, well, I guess this was already built, but our little casita detached studio in our home became like where I work out of. It's also our guest place where guests can come and stay. But I truly believe that when you bring yourself into the environment, it doesn't mean I have to like crawl into a cave and live there. Or if you have mountains, you have to like hike your way on top of a mountain. But it's a place that feels really good for you, where you can start to maybe see things and feel things that, and have different, your brain starts to think differently now that you're in an environment that actually feels really good for you. So mine is caves. I brought myself into my cave. My digestion is calm touch. So it's quiet. Like I'm supposed to eat and study and everything with no sound, which is really hard for me. Because I'm definitely one that eat with the TV on. But that's why I said I went into my cave, I got quiet, and I got clear. And what I mean by I got clear is that, again, so I want you to look at your environment, see where your environment is. I want you to look at your digestion and see what kind of digestion. Like a coworker of mine, his is like super dim lighting. So it's funny. So when we were in the office together, he's literally in, like, without even knowing his human design, he's literally in his office in the dark, like shades drawn. And he also has caves as his human design type, as his human design environment. So it was really funny that he was already like just naturally already. Jason's is high sound, so we're opposite. It's like kind of the worst. Like I'll be watching the TV, he's literally playing his guitar. I'm completely overstimulated. I'm like, there's so many loud sounds happening. This is crazy. I don't know how you do this. But anyway, I believe those two elements can really, really help you like sink in back to your true self and really hear from your soul, like what it is we're actually craving. And it helps you ground. And then my getting clear goes to my manifestation arrow. So if you look at the arrows, you have 4. You have 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. You want to look at the bottom right arrow is your manifestation arrow. And mine is fixed, meaning that for me, when it comes to manifestation, I am meant to get very, very specific on what it is that I want. So then when it actually comes, not only do I know that it comes, but like it's able to come to me a lot quicker because I actually have a direction of where I'm going. Does that make sense? And so when I realized that my business was just like suffering, right? And my creativity was completely tapped out, like I had no ability to like bring myself out of this. I realized what I was really craving was stability. I was craving feeling productive again and successful again, working on a team again, like being a part of like life again. Because that's another thing, like working on your own solo business, also then in a detached part of the house, also living in a very remote area of the country can be a little lonely. It can be really isolating. And like, I have pretty social placements, Leo sun, Gemini moon, Aquarius rising. Like, she's just a little like, she's just like a little fairy floating around, just wanting to connect with other humans. And so I really had to come to terms with like realizing that there was a part of me that craved just wanting more and realizing that my spirituality, right, and my practice doesn't need to be my 100% full time income just because leaving corporate America is so celebrated and encouraged. And that also helped me realize that I was running away from my last job, right? Because it was so bad. But that doesn't mean that everywhere is bad. And so I got really, really specific. I was like, okay, like I have skills that can pay me a lot of money. I've already done it, right? So I can do this again. But I still want to work remotely. But I want them to pay, I want to travel. I want them to pay me to travel. I want to make this amount of money. And I still want to have the freedom to be able to be creative. And so, end of July is when I made that decision to start applying to jobs. By my birthday, again, just really moving through it, but we're applying to jobs like nobody's business, right? Because now things are like low key desperate, but like the process is the process. After my book trip that I took in August, that's when things became even more clear. And I decided to kind of jumpstart my creativity again by writing something completely different, right? So normally my writing would be like channeled messages and channeling like wisdom and all of this different stuff, right? But this time I was like, I feel so stuck in that area, so I want to write something completely different. So I started this writing project that I've been working on. I just started having so much fun. I started having so much fun. I hope you're catching the trend. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling very successful in even just taking these little baby steps. And by September, I got an offer to a job that I actually originally applied for when I thought, because again, we're not perfect. I think I mentioned this in the last episode. I tend to be a runner when I go through times of strife and hardship. So I really thought for a moment I was going to like blow up my entire life and like move back to New York. Especially then when we were thinking of jobs and realizing, as an executive assistant, which is where most of my experience lies, like remote work is like few and far in between now these days, especially for my particular role. Um, so I didn't know what to expect, and I was like, if I have to move back to a city, I want to move to New York. um, but obviously we have a whole life here. So long story short, I got connected with this company, not the company that I work for, but the middleman of what the company that connected me to the company that I work for now. They were applying for a listing that was actually in New York as a hybrid New York position. And then went through their process, got into their talent pool, which then connected me to the job that is exactly what I was manifesting, a remote job paying this amount, working with a small team, like all of it, which is crazy. Okay. And then that's why, so I didn't really talk much because I had the offer already when I made my last episode in September, but I didn't want to talk too much about it. But now I'm a few months in. We can chat about it now. And I literally couldn't be happier. Like, I I was kicking and screaming the entire year, being like, oh my God, I have to get a job. I have to get a job. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And then I wound up manifesting a job that actually gives me so much freedom and so much autonomy. My boss is incredible. My team is incredible. I now don't have to worry about my bank account anymore. I can pay my bills. I'm like almost 40,000 words into this writing project. I'm like completely like, I changed my hair. I feel like I was able just to come back home to myself. And I used my human design to actually get me there. And it didn't take me that long. It didn't take that long for the shit to start happening, right? Because then even now, that took like turn up like obviously the grief and the turmoil was long. That was like 8 months worth. And then the I got the offer literally on that really big solar eclipse in September, the beginning of September. And I started in October. And I just feel like I have my life back. I really do. Like, I write in the mornings and I still study my astrology. You I I'm having a hard time with words. I feel like Jason and I can plan for 2025 and like actually be really excited and like move forward in our relationship and just like get back to living life again because I did not realize how much I was not living life before. And that's what this job and this mindset shift, because I thought that my business was going to lead me there, and maybe she will, but she needs time. She needs time, right? I don't need to do it all on my own, and I don't need to like suffer the entire time until she gets there. And so I found something that actually supports me to the point where in December I went and they invited me to do a human design like workshop for their strategy session with my whole team. So it was like me, my one other woman coworker, and like 4 dudes in a conference room going over human design. And so like how unbelievably supportive and aligned is that? And I just wanted to share that story because I think sometimes this space, I mean, I see it all the time. Like I also like bought into this and fell into this, that the only way I can experience any type of freedom is to do it, like to have my own business and do it myself. And, have all these offerings and all of these paying a shit ton of money to like support this and do that. And like, I just really found that I've now experienced the most freeing feeling I have ever felt in the last 2 years. Um, right now, while having a steady full-time job than I did when I was on my own as a free agent, stressed and anxious every single day of my life. And so 2025 for me, because again, we were in survival for so long in 2024. That's why, like, once I posted my last episode, the end of the year, it was me then getting used to being in a full time job again and like really like getting solidified and learning the job and understanding who I'm working with and just like learning so much. And that can be so overwhelming too. So I really spent, I feel like the last half of the year, like learning my new way of being to the point of exhaustion because I traveled so much. So got that manifestation. But like fuck. Um we're gonna put boundaries on like how I travel, right? And like what I need in order to then feel like I can like because and I think a lot of people can resonate with this, but like maybe in my 20s, I could like go and be on the road for 2 weeks and, work remotely and come back late Sunday and then be able to like be up and at 'em and like work Monday morning. But like I can't do that anymore. I can't do that anymore. And so, especially when I'm celebrating the new year, like literally completely like out of juice. I'm still low key hibernating. Like, we have not seen people since we got back from, we spent Christmas in LA with Jason's family. And so we were, we got back, what, Saturday night? I think that was the 28th. We haven't seen a soul since. It's January 3rd, I believe. Yeah, it's January 3rd. So, like, as we go into 2025, now, I'm really now, again, looking at my human design and really now that I've grounded it a little bit and I'm back at like a good baseline, now I want to really be intentional about the bringing more things back into my life that I know feel really good for me. And so, again, my human design, my top left arrow is also fixed. I actually have most fixed arrows besides my top right, um, which I feel like says a lot. And so, when you look at your top left arrow, that helps you understand the types of routines feel really good for you when it's facing left. Routine is great. Having really solid routines helps you feel really, really grounded. Meanwhile, compared to it being turned right, you can be a little bit more passive. You can really go with how you're feeling that day and structure your day around what you're actually craving in the moment. But for me, routines are a really, really big grounding force in my life. And it's something that I've been lacking low key all of 2024. Probably starting around like May. That's when things started to get like not well. June and July being like really bad. So for the last half of the year, like I was barely doing a morning practice. My morning practice being like I would wake up, I would meditate, I would journal, I would pull a card. It was like, and I did that religiously for years and years and years. And so ending the year realizing that like I have not even pulled an oracle card, a single oracle card in months is crazy. Because then my morning routine was my writing, became my writing project. I would just wake up, I'd make my matcha, and I would come in my studio and I would just write, which was beautiful. But I really wanted to connect with myself first. And so this, as I go into 2025, I'm really leaning back into my routines and starting to really nurture and take care of myself again and using my human design to help me do that. And so for me, 2025 is really going to be around like mothering And I was chatting with my friends about this earlier, because I noticed yesterday when I woke up, because, I've been talking with Jason all week. I'm like, okay, I have to start, like, I have to start taking care of myself again and just putting these things in place that I know fuel me and feel really, really good. Right. And so, like, I don't have an excuse. You know what I mean? Like, now that I feel really good at work and I feel really good about everything else in life, like, I can finally take a deep breath and, like, take care of myself now. And I noticed yesterday the dialogue in my mind was convincing me and rationalizing why I didn't want to do the things. Like, why it was okay to not do the things that I want to do, like waking up and doing my sitting in meditation and doing my practice, looking at my work email, even though, like, working out, like, all of the things. Didn't want to eat food, right? I didn't want to cook food, right? It was too lazy. LOL. And by the end of it kept, not only did it keep happening, but then the pattern would be my brain would rationalize, oh, Megan, like, you're like, no one is low-key working this week anyway. Like, you don't have to wake up this early. Like, you can wake up later. Like, oh, like, we can just get, like, takeout. Like, no worries. Like, again, like, we're still on holiday. Everything's fine. Like, oh, like, and it was just like this, like, the constant rationalization of why it was okay to not do the things that I said that I was going to do. To then the point where I would just do, like, I then became so awake, then, like, when my mind just, like, spinning around, like, why it was okay to not do the thing. I'm like, well, I'm awake. I might as well just wake up now and just do the thing anyway. So then I did do that thing anyway. And then every time I would do the thing anyway, the thought in my mind would be, oh, okay, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. And I was like, oh, this is so interesting. I feel like every time, especially with these new, like, these tiny little baby steps that I'm trying to, like, incrementally make, each time I go to do the thing, my mind is rationalizing why it's hard right now and why we don't need to do the thing. And I realized it was almost the same as, like, just like my little girl just throwing a temper tantrum. Like, no, I don't want to wake up right now. No, I don't want to eat that food. No, I just, like, want to sit and watch TV. Like, I don't want to do any of that, right? And realizing that there's this part of me now where, poor girl, has just been through the ringer this last year. And now we kind of just need to, like, mother her. It's like a kid that wanted to go on a roller coaster, like, was scared to go on the roller coaster, but then went on the roller coaster and then wound up absolutely loving the roller coaster. You know what I mean? Realizing that, like, there's this mothering that I'm moving through right now that is holding this little girl's hand and, like, helping her as she starts to take care of herself again, right? And so that's my theme of the year. That's my, like, giant that's my giant reflection and update. And I'm really excited. I'm really, really, really excited for 2025. Especially, this is a 1 year for me. Woo! Let me tell you, that we are in a collective 9 year, but for me, your personal numerology year, I feel like, is such a theme throughout the whole year. And I will say, the 9 year was a fucking doozy. It was a doozy on all fronts. And so I am just, like, so relieved and so amped and so ready for this, like, new era and new chapter. Like, I just feel like I've been brought back to life. Look at me, I'm glowing. Anyway, wanted to pull a card, but I realized that I forgot to bring the deck in here, so I'm going to quickly go get it, and then I'll bring it back. Okay, I'm back. Oh my god, it was so funny though. So I run in to the house, and I'm like, oh my god. Jason's in the kitchen. I was like, I forgot my oracle deck. And he's like, oh my god, look at you. You're having so much fun. You're glowing. And I'm like, I literally just made a joke about that. Oh, so funny. Okay, so before I open this is actually a Christmas present from my babe, Jason. It's called the Cosmic Magic Oracle Deck. And it's actually so cool. And I've been obsessed and I've been loving it because it's astrology and self-care, which is like literally like the two things that, well, the self-care thing, like obviously I want to do this year, but also like you can never go wrong by getting me some type of astrology gift. Ever. And I use this deck to pull for Jason and I, like our theme for 2025 and everything. And like I've been using the last few days and it's just been so lovely. I also just feel like it's just so on brand, like for me. Also, I want to shout out the author, Valerie Tejeda. I'm sorry. Valerie Tejeda. Or it can be Tejeda, depending on how you pronounce that J. Tejeda. Valerie Tejeda. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, but I absolutely love your deck, and I'm super obsessed. And so I want to pull a card for us, especially because now moving forward, anyone loves it. Any ASMR? Well, now the joke is past because I can't pronounce anything. I was going to say, any ASMR fans? Okay, anyway, I'm going to stop doing that. Moving forward, how I want to show up in this space, because I've been saying I want to show up in this space and then life has happened because I keep coming in prematurely. But now that I know what my life is now, I'm going to show up here every month. So on the first Wednesday of the month, you'll have a new episode that will basically break down the month that we're in. I'll go over the astrology themes, different transits that might be happening. I'll pull a collective card. I'll probably talk about some human design stuff and like any, different topic. My two main areas of focus are astrology and human design, as always. You know what I mean? Those are the two places that I love. And obviously I have my energy healing stuff, but those are the places that I love the most. So each month I'll like dive into I'll do a little deep dive forecasting on the month ahead, and I'll pull, a card for that month. So this is going to be our card for January as a collective message. And we'll just see what comes up. Because I don't want to pull a 2025 theme. I feel like that's just, I did it for me, but collectively, I want you all to have your own theme. You know what I mean? But we can have a collective message for January. So let's see. Oh my god. I pulled this card this morning. Mars, action. This is a good one. This is a good one. I'm really excited. Action. Those first steps we take to get the ball rolling. That moment when we decide to move. Sorry, I can't read. That moment when we decide to move something forward. Nothing happens until we take action. And taking action really comes down to making the decision to do so when we are ready. Mars is the planet of action and is associated with the god of war. Mars is the traditional planetary ruler of Aries and Scorpio, and is also governs the first house in astrology, which is the house of self and identity. Mars represents passion, energy, determination, and our ability to take action and make things happen. This Mars card acts as a reminder to take action in our lives, to follow our passions and take the steps to move things forward, to make a plan or set a personal goal, execute it, and see it through. I mean, what a perfect card to have at the beginning of the year. Of course, I want to preface that we are still in winter. So we are allowed to take things slow. We don't have to be like new year, new me. And like completely exhaust ourselves, right? Like spring is really when we have our astrological new year. But to me, this card means that there are definitely things that we can totally decide to take action on right now. Like, there are, even if it's baby steps, right? Like, it doesn't mean we have to sprint towards all of these goals, but I think it's really important and really inspiring and like motivating to set goals for ourselves during this time and really see like how we feel about those goals, right? And when we start taking action, seeing how we feel while we take action on those goals so we can course correct. And then by spring, really know and already have something beginning to bloom, right? Winter, yes, things are dying, but life is still living underground. All the things that are dead right now come back to life. They're still alive. They're just not flowering. And so, what are the things in your life right now that you know in your heart that you want to do? And you just been maybe like me, having every single rationalization and justifiable rationalization as well. Like the excuses that were like moving through my mind, all valid, all true, right? But it's realizing that even through the validness and the truth of those excuses and the stories that we're telling ourselves in that moment, is there a reality that we can still take action and move towards our goals even now, right? And so she has really awesome journal prompts that I'll put in the show notes as well, along with an affirmation and self-care practice. When you pull the Mars card in a reading, reflect on the following. What is something that I've been wanting to take action on? What steps can I take to move things forward? Is there anything holding me back from taking action in this area of my life? And I think this is really important too. When we can now understand maybe the baby steps that we can take. Because again, I really want to use my example. So I keep pointing because I'm pointing at my vision board that's like across the room. I want to use the example of me making the decision to get a job again. I made that decision. I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And then I broke it down. Okay. For my folks that have their manifestation arrow to the right, you're going to focus on how you want to feel. For me, with my manifestation arrow to the left, I was like, all right, let's get really fucking specific. What do I want? What is it that I actually want? Let's like actually get granular and get really heads down and focused. And once I was able to do that, I literally put that vision board together. And then the next month, I had the job that I wanted. I applied to the jobs. I went to the interviews. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have to like push and shove, but I took the baby steps I needed to get me there. I knew I wasn't going to get a job if I didn't do my resume, right? If I didn't have my friend look at it for me, right? And just get some feedback after I haven't heard from a few. And so what are the things that we can do right now? Even the baby step. Maybe it's apply, like for me it was like, okay, I'm going to apply to like 5 jobs every day once my resume was done. And then like let that be that. When it came to writing, I was like, okay, I'm just going to like my goal is to write 500 words every day and just see how far that gets me. So what's like the little tiny baby step? Because again, we're in winter, so we don't need to like, maybe it's like going to like, maybe it's signing up for the marathon. Maybe you're not training for it yet, but maybe you're signing up for it. Maybe it's starting to research that big trip that you want to take and maybe figuring out the budget of like how you can actually make that happen, right? It's actually putting granular steps so it's not overwhelming and things can actually just start flowing to you and opportunities start flowing to you because you're communicating with the universe that not only am I saying that this is what I want, but now I'm doing the things that are getting me closer to what I want. So now the universe, it's that co-creation. Now we're working together to actually make things happen. So then when the opportunity shows up, I can realize it for what it is and take it. Right? So the affirmation, I am capable of taking action and moving things forward in my life. I love. Self-care practice. Do something today to take action. It can be the smallest baby steps towards taking action, but take a step forward. Maybe you've been wanting to go for walks, so try getting outside and walking for just 5 minutes. Maybe you've been wanting to read a book that you just bought a while ago, but try reading just 1 chapter. Maybe you've been wanting to meditate, so set a timer and focus on your breathing for 3 minutes. Just take action. Even a small step towards something that you've been wanting to do for yourself. Make sure you give yourself the recognition for taking that action and be proud of yourself. A win is a win. A win is a win. Okay? Like, I don't care if we haven't manifested $1 million, but like, if we got the job that we wanted and now we're in a much better financial situation, that's a win. If we got out of the toxic relationship, that's a win. If we woke up like 5 minutes earlier and didn't look at our phone immediately and just focused on our breathing, that's a win. Like, let's just like celebrate our like everything being a win. Especially when it comes to like the little tiny things, like maybe just taking extra time to go outside. It's winter, so I realize that might not be appealing to everybody. But still, do you know what I mean? Like, life is too short to constantly be so mean to ourselves. And I realize it's funny saying this because I pretty much spent most of 2024 being so mean to myself. Also my life. And I realized that I can choose to not be. Right? It goes back down to that decision and then making those conscious choices and taking action on areas that for me, at least when it comes to my goals of like radical self-love this year and like mothering myself, making sure I'm making decisions, even in the smallest of steps, like not looking at my phone immediately when I first wake up in the morning as a win. Because I'm letting my own brain have her own thoughts and her own feelings and just literally wake up without being bombarded with like media. And so let me know if this resonates. I'll definitely, if you're part of my newsletter, I'll include a picture of the card in the in my newsletter when I send this off when I release it, and I'll put the description and all of the things and the prompts in the show notes. But I hope you guys had a really fun time. I was really happy being back, and I mean, right now we're in Capricorn season, so we are making our goals. Like we are kind of embodying that CEO energy right now. We're also resting and we're gearing up for the end of the month, which is Aquarius season, and things just getting a little weird. So I'll see you when we are in full-fledged Aquarius. Um, but I love you all so, so much, and it's really great to be back. And obviously, if any of you want help looking at your human design chart and your astrology, especially if you were in a place like I was last year, feeling really lost, feeling really stuck, like not knowing how to get yourself out of like life's rut, I would love to help you. I have cosmic design sessions where I literally break down your astrology and human design, and we get into all the goods and get you, with out getting giving you tools that can help you bring you back into your true self. They're just the best. So, link in the show notes to book sessions with me if that's something that you want to explore. And also, I guess I should actually make this announcement as well for the rest of the month, because this is my monthly episode. But I have, and I want to apologize to my girlies that are so supportive for me and did me a super solid. And I interviewed them to be on the podcast last summer. And then my life and mental health just got away from me. And I didn't have the capacity to actually get them out. But once you finish up this episode, I have 3 other episodes already released. You can go listen to them right after this and kind of get your fix. I dive in also to every single one of their astrology and human design charts, and we all just have different conversations because it's so many different people, but these women are incredible. And so have fun on my backlog. It's funny because the actual episodes, like with my guests, are filmed with me with brown hair because those were filmed in July. But then the introductions, because my life was then wild, were filmed with my red hair because I didn't I truly didn't get around to them until I guess that was end of September. Maybe October. I think I might have said that they were going to be released in November. It didn't happen. I'm really sorry. But they're going to be released and they're so awesome. And I don't want them to fall away, which is why I'm just releasing them now as like getting excited for the year and episodes. You know what I mean? So please, please, please go check them out. All of these women are so incredible. Lena, Isabel, Gisela, they're all incredible women doing so just incredible things. So go check them out. And until next time, I'll see you next month. Bye.